Costa Rica is a sovereign country, so you have a lot of people from around the world that are fleeing to this place. You meet a family from Israel, and it really puts things in context. When your 6-year-olds are going to school together, when I asked the father how long you're going to be here, and he looked into my eyes and started to tear up, and he said, I don't know, we don't have a home anymore. Jolts you into this reality and this humility of like, wow, we are so blessed. We hold an American passport. We have the luxury and courage to show up here on purpose as a choice, where some people are coming here because it's the only place to come.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Motion of Gratitude podcast. So this has been a months coming, but Matthew and I are back together today to have a life conversation. Welcome back, Love Bug.
Thank you, and happy birthday.
Thank you. Yes, today is my 36th birthday. So it's fun to do a podcast together. We've got the kiddies in school today. It's their last day of school in the jungle. There's a lot of closure, a lot of closure happening, a lot of shifts happening, and we've kind of taken the last almost 5 months. We've been down here in Costa Rica, and it's just been an incredible journey, a wild ride.
A bunch of paradoxes.
Yeah, it's just been a beautiful experience as a family. And, as we're kind of feeling into this energy of heading back to the US and just almost reflecting on the 4.5 months that we've had here so far, we wanted to talk about some of the lessons we've learned from the jungle, in the jungle, with the jungle. I think
on purpose or by accident.
Yeah, I think we all have ideas of what things are going to look like before you get somewhere, and to actually take time and reflect on what they actually look like, I think is a gift, and I think it's an opportunity to look at the lessons, look at the learning, and look at the beauty of it all, because like anywhere, life can intense even here in the jungle. So if you don't take a moment to step back and kind of look at the experience, you can miss all of the beauty of it. So as we sit here on my 36th birthday and I'm in full reflection mode of my 36 years, we thought it would be a beautiful time to reflect on our time here and just kind of share personally what are some lessons that we've learned. I think we have a lot of conversations with people, obviously, who are in the US, who aren't in the jungle, and a lot of the initial thought is like, oh, it must be so easy. It must be so great, to like wake up in paradise every day. And it's a yes and, like, yes, the sunshine can't be ignored. The daily vitamin D can't be ignored. When the kids need fresh air to be able to go to the beach, like, there's so much incredible beauty in that. And life is still happening. Life as a family of 5, life with 3 little kids. That's all still there. That doesn't go away. The magic of the jungle doesn't make your kids learn to listen and do all the things. So we thought it'd be fun to kind of dive into the things that we've learned, that we're learning, and I think things we're going to take back with us. So
do you want to start with the good or the bad?
Remember, it's harmony or disharmony.
Harmony or disharmony.
One thing the jungle has taught us.
Yes.
Lesson number 1. Instead of good or bad, are we in harmony or disharmony?
So do you want to start with harmony or disharmony?
I want you to start. Why don't you start with whatever comes up for you? Start with you, Love Bug. I've been doing all the talking here on the podcast. So
I know, I've been cocooning. Actually, it's quite the paradox in of itself, because I usually do all the talking, but I've been writing my book, so
yes.
It's kind of backwards.
Another thing that's coming to fruition through the jungle.
Yes. So I think for me, this phase of life has been, there's so much duality.
Yeah.
In living here. The novelty wears off after about 30 days, and then you have to acknowledge that you take yourself everywhere you go.
Wherever you go, there you are.
Yes. And, some of the major lessons for me is I was always good at running hard and fast everywhere I went. And here, if you don't slow down, this place forces you to slow down, and it would force you in a way that you didn't plan. And I'll use a practical example. Let's talk about driving. So cars here in Costa Rica are the most important part of your day, in my opinion. And it's not like America where like the cooler the car and the fancier it is, the more expensive it costs. Here, like a 1970s no technology car is going to cost you more than a new car.
Yeah, this is where all the old Land Rovers, we say, go to live. Like, they are happy, they are thriving, and like, just they're the car that you want here in the dusty, dry human jungle.
Yeah. So like a practical example is like I haven't driven over 45 mile an hour in months. Obviously, we went to the U.S. for Christmas for 12 days, but outside of that trip to America, like we've been in what would feel like slow motion compared to living in the States.
Yeah.
So like the roads are terrible, but it's nice because it slows you down. If you were to drive fast, you would probably break your car. Not probably, you will break your car. No. Then if you break your car, you can't find a mechanic. So the unintended consequence of you breaking things because they cannot be fixed messes with the entire rhythm of your life.
Yeah.
So what I would say is that's a conscious decision then that you have to be making on a daily basis so that you don't break your car. You have to drive aware. And another part of driving, and this is just practical, is there's entire families riding on motorcycles, like little babies. So like if you were to text and drive or not pay attention, you could really, really hurt somebody. So that's a very practical example of being forced to slow down in order to be conscious of your community and not hurt anyone by accident or hurt your car, which is going to then mess up your entire rhythm. And renting cars in Costa Rica is so expensive, so the last thing you want to do is be putting yourself through all those things on a consistent basis. So that's just one of my big lessons is slowing down. What about you, love? What's one of your big lessons?
Yeah. Well, I think to just add on to your slowing down there, because I think that's been one of the biggest ones, is both physically slowing down, but like you have to mentally slow down here. Like you think of the US, right? Like when you go to a yoga class, the time is, if it starts at 11, it starts at 11. And if it's an hour, it's over at 12 o'clock. Here, there's such a flow. And when people are fully tapped into the moment, you might be in a yoga class that was scheduled for an hour and you might get out 2 hours later because the teacher is just so in the moment. And they're like, I kept going. I've lost track of time, right? So this thing that is so important in the US, which is time, and we make so many decisions and we structure our days so deeply on time. It's taken a lot to kind of settle into the fact that time is
a human construct.
Yeah. And here people, it's more about how they're feeling in the moment, so there is more of a flowiness to the day rather than a strict structure. So if you're somebody that like has your day like kind of timed out to the hour, there's a process of releasing that here. And if you don't release it, you miss out on the beauty. Like there's so much opportunity here by allowing yourself to let go of that and just let yourself be. For me personally, there's been beautiful moments of allowing myself to, get out of that rigidity of how I do things and just kind of step into the beauty of what people have created here. Because obviously it's working because the people here are healthy. They take care of themselves. Self-care is like a priority here. So
food, I mean,
yeah, the way that people eat, yeah, so it's one of those things that I think took me a good bit to settle into, to just allow myself to let go of the structure a bit and just accept the flow of it.
And time is, I'll continue on the time thing because I think this is so important for us as a couple, as a family. Like Costa Rica time, people joke. It's
Tico time.
Tico time. So you're expected to be a little late, and you're not criticized in that. There's a flow to life where, like, you might just get stuck behind a dump truck. Like, that's just
because there's one road in and one road out.
Yeah, there's one road. So there's such a community around flexibility and acceptance, and there's very little judgment in that reality, which I think is really special for us. For me, having 3 little kids, like, our schedule is X, and that's rarely what happens.
Yeah.
You know, you have to have freedom in a framework. And, you know, some of the things that come up in the jungle, like jungle sicknesses, and, you know, the kids had impetigo, which is very common, not a big deal, but it spreads fast. So then your kids are home, and there's a respect around the community, but that doesn't make it easy. I think it created so many challenges of that fluid. Like, the fluidity for me is really hard because I'm a structured, disciplined person.
Yep.
So a lot of my triggers were definitely pressed in living here, and just the fact of me living here has allowed me to evolve and grow into someone I never was before being here.
And to keep with that thought too, like, I think what Matt and I have always learned about ourselves is, and maybe you can relate to this, but in order for us to actually find our middle, maybe this is me personally, but I find that we almost have to understand both extremes of things, you know? And I think living in the US, we all know, whether consciously or unconsciously, that there's a very intense energy of the way things get done. It's faster, it's harder, it's hustle. It's like, it's don't stop, like, just keep going. We all know this, right? I'm not saying anything that's you know, not something that we feel all the time. We live in a culture that's been built that way, and people have found success that way. So that's what we are encouraged to do, because that is how success has been found. And if we continue to define ourselves by that success, that's the path in which most of us go. So, you know, us personally, or I can speak for myself here, I don't operate really well in that hustle culture. Like, it's not coming from my nervous system, from a mother of 3 kids, or Matt's talking about, where their flexibility is important. I don't always feel like that's supported in more of that structure. So, you know, there was a big piece of like, okay, I need to see what it feels like to not have that. You know, to not be in this space of, it's about hustle, it's about go, go, go. And Costa Rica is about as extreme in the other direction as you can find. Because, like, if you know anything about the blue zones, if you've ever explored them, like, these are people who have come here consciously to live their life. Like, it's not about hustle. It's not about proving your worth to other people. It's about, like, living from your center, living from your heart, living from your purpose, and making decisions that align with who you are, whether it makes sense to other people or not, you know? And it's beautiful, you know, to witness people who, quite frankly, have taken a completely different path and have said, like, this is aligned with me. This is where I'm going to go. This is what I'm going to explore. And there is that more feminine, flowy energy that allows for, like not the structured time, not this hustle, right? So through this process, we've been able to witness both. And in the beauty of that, you see the beauty of both sides of it. You know, like, there are things from the US that I miss so bad right now, to be able to say, like, okay, maybe I do want to go to a class and know that I will get out in an hour to be able to go on with my life. Like, there are, like, decisions that can be made. There are contracts in which things, you know, have structure to them, so we know what the foundation of things are. You know, so I think for us, this is my biggest lesson in just being able to see both and put yourself in experiences to be able to witness both extremes. For me personally, I get to figure out exactly what feels right in the middle. And I actually get to appreciate things from the US that I did not appreciate when I was there. And I get to bring in things from Costa Rica that might not be the norm in the US. And I get to understand, like, I've seen how it works. I see the beauty of it. So I get to bring those together, and then we get to decide as a family, like, okay, what pieces are we going to bring into our world and make our reality, and I think that's been so powerful. It can be intense, right? Because you're putting yourself from one extreme to the next. So it can be intense. But I think for me personally, there's so much beauty in now recognizing things in the US that I took for granted before, that I now understand the importance of. And then to also have the other side to say, okay, now I know why things weren't feeling aligned, or what I need to do differently personally in order to stay aligned with my truth and my authenticity that I feel like is so deeply rooted here. So that's definitely been my big lesson.
Yeah. And what comes up for me as you're sharing that is there's the feeling of life, and then there's the practicality of life.
Yeah.
Like I would say the driving feelings of living here, one, they're polarizing. It's either like really good or really intense.
Yeah.
And the practicality of living here is hard, period. Yeah. Like the choices that we make on a daily basis to smile and maintain levity. Yes, we have the ocean, and we have surfing, and we have beautiful trees and nature. But there's and not but I guess and like the things that we're used to from a practical sense, like feeding a family of 5 in the jungle is really intense. Like it's very expensive to buy food here, and the kids are exercising constantly, so they plow through food, which is great. It's a beautiful thing to watch. But there's things you take for granted, like maple syrup. I'll just use one specific example. We love maple syrup in our house. I put in my coffee, and and the kids eat pancakes almost every day. So one thing of maple syrup is $25.
And we're talking the little, like, we're not talking the Costco jug. We're talking the like Vermont log cabin, like last one. If you're watching the video, like not even the size of my hand.
Right. So like we go through like 3 of these things a week sometimes, and I'm like, this is insane.
Yep.
Like last night I come from my financial planning background, so sorry everybody. But I went to the grocery store. I got Shannon some chicken noodle soup, and I got a chocolate bar, a thing of butter, pasta, and a Parmesan cheese. So it was like 5 items for $70. So you're just $70. So I'm like, oh my gosh, we went out to dinner in America, but we got 5 items.
Right.
And I have to cook.
Right. Right.
So
nobody made it for you. It's not done.
No one made it. So the thing that comes up for me is like, there's the feeling of living here, which is really intense. I would say for me, it's like 90% good, but the 10% is like soul crushing sometimes. And then there's a humility that comes from me with living here. This place, like left to its own devices, the jungle would just take over everything. The nature and just the beauty of it and how fast it grows. And I think it just puts you in a place of consciousness where you have to surrender to the fact that like the way the world has worked way before we walked it. Mm-hmm. And that humility is very grounding. It's all inspiring, and sometimes I just want to like go back to America, sit on my couch, and if something's not there, I want to be able to order it on Amazon and it shows up.
Mm-hmm.
So we've been without Amazon for 5 months.
So beyond being without Amazon, we have oh,
here we go.
So there aren't even mailboxes here in Costa Rica. There's no address. Like there's no addresses. So anybody listening to this right now, if you find yourself frustrated that your Amazon package was delivered in 2 days instead of 1, I take this moment to just acknowledge, like, that is such a luxury that we have. Like, period. It's and even getting anything, like if you're supporting a small business and it takes them a week to get something to you, like I can't even get my supplements delivered down here. I have to get a pack mule to bring it from the US. Like whoever's coming to visit, we have to send supplements to them so that they can bring it down, So like that's the beauty of this though. Like if you put yourself, and the point of us doing this too and sharing this is to give a perspective of beyond what we're experiencing, but maybe there's some learning here in the jungle for all of us, you know, like maybe take a moment and realize, like, if you didn't have Amazon or you didn't even have delivery, you know, like that is such a luxury, and that's something that we can take for granted. And I think for me personally, like there's such a new appreciation of even being able to want something and go to the store and get it, you know? Like there's one store here that has toys that we have dubbed the Target. And if you walked into it in the US, you wouldn't even probably walk in. Let's start there. If you saw it from the street, you probably wouldn't walk in because you wouldn't think that it had anything that you needed. You know, so it's like,
but the kids, like the beauty of that,
yes,
of the Target, doing air quotes, like when our kids go into that store, it's like they hit the lottery.
Yes.
And like it was another funny example of that is Shannon's parents came to visit and asked if we needed anything, and Shannon asked for underwear for the kids.
Yeah.
So they each got like a 10-pack of underwear from Target,
yeah.
and I thought they hit the lottery.
They did
like,
too.
They did too.
Yeah.
Like the beauty and the gratitude, and obviously our company's called The Motion of Gratitude. So I'm like, did I really just force us all into one of the most difficult situations of our life so that my kids could be grateful to get underwear? Like, is this what we're up to now?
I think it's a beautiful side effect. But yeah, it is. It's in those beautiful moments that you realize, like, when we strip away the luxuries and see what we're capable of doing without, one, you realize how little you really need to survive. But two, you start to have an appreciation for things that I think are so easy to take for granted. I mean, it's obvious. It makes sense why you take it for granted, because you literally just have to hit a button on your phone and things show up at your door.
Or like another example, yesterday the power was out, and we knew the power would be out, but we didn't know the water was to be off.
So when Matt says the power is out, so there are places in the world where they can shut off power to an entire community for a day or 2 days
to fix stuff,
because they have to fix things. Like,
and because of, because of the way the infrastructure is, obviously Costa Rica is a third world country, so like
there's so much building.
They're building. They have to upgrade systems, and they might have to shut down a whole part of town to accomplish that. So, but Costa Rica is already slow enough as a culture, and you're walking slower, you're living slower, your cadence. But like yesterday, for example, it feels like you're living in honey. Like when you don't live with power, and you just and
our water was off,
and the water's off, you slow down to this pace where you're like, what are we gonna do today? And unfortunately, obviously, part of town was on, so we took the kids out to lunch, and the kids were off school. But what comes up for me there is when I'm in America and like the power goes off because of a storm, and you see how upset people get. Here, people just keep living.
Yep.
This is just part of their reality. And like there's a water shortage here right now, so most nights they turn off the water around 7:30, and then it turns back on around 7 in the morning. So, but you learn to live. Like that's another big, the adaptations that we've had to have for ourselves. Like it's like, okay, we know the water's going to turn off, so make sure we fill up our water bottles before 7, so we have water to drink all night. I fill up my coffee pot every night before I go to bed, because I wake up at 4:35 and I want to make sure I have water to make my morning coffee. So there's just the beauty of living this consciously is like you have no choice. Although it gets old and frustrating sometimes, it makes you aware that life does turn out to be pretty simple. It's like you got to drink enough water, particularly here in the jungle, because it's so hot. We really want to eat clean food, but then our food is so simple because of costs and dynamics. So it's just simple beans, rice, vegetables, local. Chicken. So it's just eggs, pancakes, lots of pancakes, and maple syrup. And then you realize, like, even air condition. air conditioning is such a gift. And when it's off, you see how it triggers the kids and how it triggers us, and you're like, "Whoa, look,
it's so hot!"
It's so you like, look at us falling apart over here. And it's really funny because we're living in a container house, so
we upgraded the RV to multiple containers.
yeah. So basically, each of our kids have their own container. They're attached externally but not internally, so they can't pass through these things. So each of our kids have their own bathroom and their bed and their own little container, and they are essentially like little, it feels like I have like 3 little teenagers sometimes because they have their own little apartments. So we're just learning so much. Prior to this, we had kind of wanted a container home.
Again, a beautiful thing to test drive.
Yeah, we got to test drive, and we don't want a container home, but the amount of flexibility, and like our kids, if they have bad dreams at night, they have to come outside to come get us. So like there's so many things that living in a traditional home, or having central air inside your entire house, like these are all things that
non-sliding doors.
Yeah, we have a lot of sliders. So we share some of these things because or at least I never want to portray to society that, oh my goodness, I disappeared to the jungle for 5 months and it was this beautiful synchronicity and it was all perfect. And this has been one of the hardest chapters of my life. And in this chapter, I've had to integrate so much new information about who I am, what triggers me, why do I get angry, so many things. And then not only are you getting triggered, but you're forced to sit in it all because life is so much slower. So I think that's been a beautiful gift. And then obviously, one of my biggest wins, which for me was writing my book. And like my book comes out in a couple weeks, and I don't think I could have done that in America. I was so distracted all the time. So having the ability to focus was much easier here for me.
And I think here too, there's, we talked about the flow, and, there's a level of creativity that is
required.
Yeah. And you're able to, it feels easier to access sometimes here. And just, so think about so when you come to somewhere like the jungle, there's a lot of people who are here to explore, and they're here to learn about themselves, and they're here to unlearn. They're here to unravel things that they thought were true that no longer feel aligned, So you're coming to a place where there's freedom of thought, there's freedom of expression, and in that, there's beauty in that, and there's deep opportunities where you have to know exactly who you are to continue to stay in your own truth. You don't have, so if you think about spirituality and if you think about religion, there's a lot of context with religion that creates a safe container for people to feel like they have an understanding of how to show up, who to be, beliefs, and that's beautiful. That serves a lot of people. In the spiritual context, there's a lot of different layers to it, and I don't feel the need to get deep into this, but there's a freedom in exploration, and there's a witnessing of other people in that exploration, without having to take it on or without having to identify the same way that they identify on their path. So I think there's so much beauty in that, because you realize that there's so much more to the world sometimes than we necessarily know or understand. And you get to witness people in that, which I think for me has been beautiful. I have a respect for people on their journeys that I didn't understand before, because I didn't witness it. And there's nothing bad about that. There was nothing negative about, the way that I was raised. I none of that. I had a beautiful experience. And as an adult, I get to witness that there's more than one way in which to operate, and there's more than one way in which to experience life. And I think kind of like where you were talking about, where it's intense, is like there's so much beauty in allowing yourself to question and experience life. And there's a lot of having to come back and center and say, like, okay, this is what aligns with me, and this is who I am, and this is what's important for me and my family and the journey that we're on.
Well, I think it comes as like, if you believe in everything, you believe in nothing. Like,
Yeah.
you really see that paradigm play out here because so many people are coming here to explore spiritual journeys.
Yeah.
Right. That's what, like, this place is known for that.
Yeah.
Particularly the town that we're in is known for an integration place. So I like what you're saying. Like, with the pendulum, you know, I guess the left side would be traditionalism, and it's like, you know, the religion or the marriage or like the rules-based society and like what you wear and what you say. It's just very in box thinking, not in a bad way.
It's just more linear
Thinking. And then like here, I feel like there's no box.
Yeah, the box has been blown up.
And people are like literally putting dynamite in it, in their own boxes, in their psyches. They're blowing it up, and then they're looking around and they're like, now what? And obviously I've explored that myself, and I think for me, living here full time has taught me that finding the middle is the goal. Like, the acceptance and the awareness of both the traditional and the spiritual and the everything and anything is not a good place for me to live. I like having framework. I like having structure. I like being happily married. I like that traditional mindset. And what this has done for me is to really allow me to judge no one. Like, I have a place in my heart for every soul to know that, like, they're on their own journey, they're on their own quest, and the things that they're experiencing or doing are a direct product of their awareness. And it's not my job to educate them, teach them, judge them, or criticize any part of their journey. I think our job is just to see it, be aware of it, and know that it doesn't have to be ours. And then that really creates a fun spot to just see people. And, you know, one thing that comes up for me is, you know, Costa Rica is a sovereign country. So you have a lot of people from around the world that are fleeing to this place. So, like, you know, we
like all over the world. That's been so beautiful. We've been here, especially where our kids are learning. We've met people from many countries.
You meet a family.
Oh, cool.
You meet a family from Israel, and it really puts things in context when your 6-year-olds are going to school together. And when I asked the father how long you're going to be here, and he looked into my eyes and started to tear up, and he said, "I don't know. We don't have a home anymore." And it jolts you into this reality and this humility of like, wow, we are so blessed that one, you know, we hold an American passport. And then two, we have the luxury and courage to show up here on purpose as a choice. Where some people are coming here because it's the only place to come. So that one's a little intense, but it's a real deep learning for me as I looked into that father's eyes.
Yeah. What else we got? I think there's so much lightness to it too, right? I think when we think about these podcasts and these conversations, I think so much of what comes to the surface is, and I can speak for myself, you know, like I think there's still sometimes that thought where if you go somewhere beautiful, it's just going to fix everything, you know, like it's just going to be happily ever after, you know, and life continues to go on. You bring yourself wherever you go. And if you can continue to understand that self better, then that's what matters, you know, like if you're left with you and you know who that person is, then it doesn't matter if you're in paradise or somewhere in between, you know? So, I think there's some big things we wanted to talk about.
And I think another one, which is a little bit more lighter and practical, is physical health.
Yeah.
You know, like my favorite part of this 5-month chapter has been my obsession with my health. You know, I had grown up an athlete. I ran track, I played soccer, but I was never like in this self-love place of like looking in the mirror and saying, I really want to love what I see. Here, because I wear a bathing suit every day, there's a practicality to that. But there's just this desire to, you know, I'm 38 and I don't want to just chalk it up on my physical self and say like, oh, I have a dad bod, or this is who I am now. You know, going to yoga 3 to 4 times a week and doing yoga with my shirt off. I do it on purpose. It's this intense vulnerability for me, but also creating self-love of who I want to be. And, you know, it's kind of funny when I went back to America, I went to do yoga over Christmas and I was like, I'm not taking my shirt off here. You know, there's just like this different energy, but here in the jungle, there's this freedom and there's this love of self-expression and there's this love of self that's so embraced. And for me, I will carry that into this next chapter as we integrate back into the States. I just want to make sure that I don't leave all the beauty of my self-care, self-love behind. And I know that we're about to go into a really intense chapter on purpose, and that's going to have to be a priority for me, which I would say prior to this last year, my physical body, I took for granted. I just said, okay, that's this thing that I'm young, I'm healthy, I'm fine, I'm going to always be fine. And this chapter has really taught me that, you know, that's not true. Like, we're getting older and we have to...
I'm now in my late 30s.
I know. We have to be intentional.
Mid-30s.
We just have to be more intentional. And I think even... I was going to say more intentional, but that's the only way to put it. As we go back into America and we go back inside of boxes, that's the biggest thing that I love about living here is I spend most of my day outside.
Yeah.
And that's been the fun thing about the container house. Blessing and a curse. Like, we don't have a living room. So we have like a courtyard. So we spend time outside and that's where we sit and relax. So yeah, the physical body is a big one for me.
Yeah. I think, so to kind of share a positive one too, because these are like intense lessons that we're learning, right? Like, these are intense things in a beautiful way, but like they're life lessons, you know, and they obviously hit at the core because they're just beautiful opportunities for us to like understand deeper who we are, who we want to be, you know. Like, I feel like life is, you know, I was talking with somebody on, actually I was talking with Emily on the podcast earlier this week. I'm excited to share that episode with you all, but you know, her and I were connecting before we actually got on the podcast, and we were talking, you know, a lot of people use the word healing, you know, and healing can feel intense, and sometimes it doesn't always feel like it hits the mark, you know, of what you're trying to do, because to me, healing has this connotation of an open wound, you know, of something that is just sometimes deeper than the level in which I feel like I'm exploring. So I've been thinking a lot about like, well, what word resonates with me, you know, as I'm in this, and you know, it's really become, it's nothing that crazy, but it's like, it's become a journey of self-discovery. Like, we're already all here, you know, like when you discover something, it's already been there. You just have to dig it up. So this idea of self-discovery has really stuck with me because it's like, I know there's a layer of myself that's been there, that's been here forever. And it's just through experience. I have to dig deeper into like feel what that is. So, you know, I think thinking about it that way, there's a lot that we're discovering that just resonates differently. And you know, I think we've found ourselves on this journey of self-discovery, and it's been beautiful. And it requires it requires conscious choices, and it requires showing up, in different ways.
Relentless patience.
Yeah.
And I think what the beauty of exploring the edges is, as we're putting together what's next, which is a big thing right now. We're closing this chapter, but we're also closing another chapter. So it's like, and another one. We're closing a lot of chapters. And we're opening a lot of new ones. But as we close these doors, this exploration, whether it was in the RV, we learned so much in the different cultures during COVID, traveling around the United States, and that was a beautiful education around a cultural truth, not so much like what we're talking about with like Amazon or the practicality. Like we just saw different cultures. Then this part of our journey has shared with us not only the cultural differences of living in Central America, but also the practical difference of living in a third world country, and the amount of gratitude that we have for the next chapter as well. But what all of this has really taught us is, what do we want?
Mm-hmm.
Like, where do we want to live next? How do we want to live? Like, to the most granular details. And that's where I really like where we're going next, is the hyper focus around, okay, here's all the things we've explored. We love the journey. We are grateful for everything we did. And there are parts of it that we want nothing to do with ever again. And that's our truth. And then it's, as we move into this next chapter, it's like, okay, what food do we eat? Or do we have real hardwood floors or fake hardwood floors in our house? Is our house made of stone? Like, there's just these conscious decisions that are so important to us now, that there's absolute alignment on, that we wouldn't have gotten to this juncture if we hadn't have done all of this exploring. So
yep.
I guess that's the long way of saying, you go on a 4-year walkabout and you might end up right back where you started, but you're not the same person. And you learn so much about your resolve. And then you also learn that, like, some parts of you won't change. Like me, like, I love a clean house. Like, it's just not changing. Like,
are you talking to me?
Yeah, I'm talking
You're
to you.
letting me know via podcast.
Yeah. No, I let you know this morning before the podcast too. But like, there's parts of me that's just who I am.
Yeah.
I really like a clean home. I like my toothbrush where I left it. I don't want my kids in my bathroom. I love them to death, to like, get out of my bathroom and brush your teeth somewhere else. And that's just, as Shannon and I go into this next version, these are the things that my environment will be set up to successfully build the best version of me, knowing what I know now and the boundaries that I have. So I don't know, I really enjoyed all of the chaos, and there's part of me that's like ready for it to come back to center.
Yeah, well, I think it's like anything. It's such an ant. Like, there's beauty and there's intensity, and I think all of us have felt that, especially the last 4 years. Like, yesterday, 4 years ago, was when the country shut down. So to almost look at these 4 years and look at the action that we took during that time. I wouldn't change any of it. I think we sped up a lot of things. We slowed down a lot of things that no longer felt aligned, and we moved in directions that felt aligned for us. And I think, to me, there's something very empowering about that. Extremely empowering. And I think as I'm sitting here, it's like, okay, what can you take away from this conversation? And I think what I have learned, I think there was a part of me that felt like if I just got my thoughts in line, then everything was going to fall into place. I was going to think it all, and then it was all just going to show up. And the only way that we've really been able to figure out what we want is by taking like messy action. And and as someone who is a recovering perfectionist, like deeply recovering, like still as in this morning, working through some recovering tendencies, like still deep in the perfectionist mindset, failing hurts my whole body. Like, it hurts every part of me. It's still intense. And when you learn to fail forward and realize that you don't have to do that again if it doesn't work, there's so much like empowering feelings that come from it, you know? And so if you're listening to this and it's like, I want to move to Costa Rica for a month, or I want to go on an RV adventure, or I want to do this, but I'm scared that I'm going to fail. You are going to fail. You are, over and over again. And guess what? In that failing, you're going to figure out exactly what you need for yourself, for your family, for the direction that you want to go in by just sitting there and trying to think through it logically. You're never going to experience what it can be. And quite frankly, the memories that we have made in the last 4 years have been magic. Through the failure, through the intensity, there's been so much beautiful magic that has happened as a family that if we had not taken that messy action, or if I personally had let my perfectionism stand in the way, we would still be sitting in the same spot that we were 4 years ago. So through all of this, through these lessons, like, know that you can learn them too. Like, we're not sharing this to say, these are our lessons and you need to take them and apply them in your life. No, they're here to be shared so you can realize, or maybe take into your life, okay, what lessons am I learning? And what story do I have to tell? You know, what is my journey to go on? Like, where is the jungle for me, you know, to like dive deep into these places of yourself and to live, you know? So,
and I love that, and I like your admitting around the perfection thing. Thank you. I thought you were gonna say I solved it. I was like, oh boy.
Never trust somebody that says that they've solved anything. None of us are figuring anything out. We are all on this journey of like messy action, and to accept that and to allow other people to show up in their messy action is where like the true connection happens. You know, the people we've met, I come back to it every time. The people we've met in the last four years have been the most depth of human that I've experienced. And it's because we've all shown up in our messiness to say, yeah, you know how many people we've met here where they're like, I don't know how I got here. I don't know where I'm going next, because there's just this process of allowing yourself to trust that you are looking for something different, allow yourself to move forward with it, even if it's not perfect, and then knowing that you might not have the next step till it's time to take it.
Well, I love, like, to expand on that, people will ask people, where are you from?
Yeah.
And here, and in the nomad culture, the question is, where were you last?
Right.
And the question might be, where do you go next? Or where do you live? I live here now.
Right.
How long are you here? I don't know. Where do you go next? I don't know. And like the ability to be around humans, for me, that is a normalized state of consciousness is very helpful, because like we're teetering on a massive shift in our life right now, and we have no idea how it's going to play out.
Yep.
We don't know where we're going to live. We don't know when it's going to happen, and it's going to be a ton of fun. And I'm 100% confident that it will unravel over the next probably 20 days, because it has to.
And there's the messy action.
And there's the messy action. Like, we fly back to America on March 28th, and we need to be on the East Coast in April. So that's our truth. I don't know how it's going to play out, but it's going to work. And for me, there's a beauty in the unknown, but there's also a knowing that I need to have roots. Like, we've gone on this journey. It's led us back to home, but that doesn't mean that we're going to live there all the time. It doesn't mean that we have to close the exploratory chapter of our lives. We just need to have a place where, like, I have all of my conscious decisions so that when I get tired, I can go there to rest and recover.
Oh, is this the roots and wings that I've been spewing out?
Yeah.
Roots and wings.
Roots and rings.
Yes. All of it.
All of that.
Yeah. Trying to think if there's anything else that's... I feel like you got a little bit of my heart there a few minutes ago, because I think what's sometimes hard to witness in the US is you see this spark inside somebody when they talk about this idea that they have. And then the next question you ask them you watch the mind go into logic, and that spark just goes away. And I get it. I think there's safety mentally sometimes in knowing what's next. And I think there's freedom in allowing yourself to say, I don't know.
And living out that paradox. Like, life is a paradox.
Mm-hmm.
Like, anyone that you look at and you perceive that their entire life is together, just assume the opposite. And don't judge. Be playful with it. Like, people, like, I know people that from the outside looking in, it looks like their whole life is falling apart, but they're the happiest people that I know.
Yep.
So it's like, have fun in the muddy middle is my, if I wanted anyone to take away from what we've just been chatting about, it's like, it's not going to be pretty. And there's, no matter where you do this, it's going to have its chaos. And, but the beauty of, for me anyway, of coming here is it's taught me how to be quiet. And I know that exists now in my own psyche. It's hard because I'm a doer. Like, I always want to be doing things. I always want to be creating things. I want to, my cadence, last one on this for me is like my cell phone got stolen 12 days ago. Well, I'm like, all right, what's the lesson in this one? But I did read a 500-page book, which has been great. And I was forced to slow down and really take in this last couple weeks here. And thank goodness my sister gets here tomorrow to deliver my new cell phone, because you can't get one here. Like, what happens in your mindset is like, oh my gosh, I don't have a cell phone. I'm going to have to fly back to America, make a bunch of irrational decisions because I'm angry because someone stole my cell phone. 24 hours later, I was like, I'll be okay. Shannon was kind of like smiling because she's like, oh, you have to slow down over there. And I kind of wanted to yell at her, which I did, because I was like, someone stole my cell phone.
I didn't feel that at all.
but like,
peaceful energy.
Yeah, before Costa Rica, I would not have been able to sustain 10 days without being connected. I would have like lost my shit, and I didn't. I'm excited to get my phone back tomorrow, and I was fine. So
I have one more metaphor to leave you with, because as Matt's talking about the messy middle, somebody had shared this with me a while ago and it stuck, and then I actually saw somebody share it on the internet the other day, so I was like, oh, there it is, that's the reminder that I needed. So because we all like to share this like image of the butterfly, right, of like, well, a caterpillar transforms into a butterfly, right? People leave out the whole entire process. Like, do you know that a caterpillar literally has to turn to complete mush, like completely disform, turn into mush in order to then turn into a butterfly? So like, we're all really good at reminding people that transformation is a process, yet nobody identifies the mush in the middle, or how long that takes, or how uncomfortable that is. I can't imagine that's comfortable for a caterpillar to turn literally from a being into mush into a butterfly. But like, I think it's this reminder that, again, I feel like everybody on the internet is selling you these transformations, and it's feeling like they just instantly happen if you spend $10,000 or more. Like, that's just the vibe that I'm catching right now on the internet. And it's frustrating because the marketing is really good. And it's also this false sense of like, if you sign up for this course and pay $10,000, you get to skip it. You get to skip the messiness. And you don't. It's beautiful to have somebody to hold you through that, because I think a lot of us do not have that space in which we can sit in our messiness. But I think sometimes we just need the reminder that in order to truly find that transformation, it does require a complete breakdown of the being that we were before in order to turn into these beautiful butterflies. So I just wanted to leave with that
before you spend the $10,000, like, you are the problem and the solution. Like, I think if people were to take that same money and like go to a hotel or rent a camper van, or like do something that was a very intense, quiet moment of reflection, you probably find the same answers that you would have signing up for a $10,000 program. Now there's so much beauty in coaches and help. I think where I'm struggling with all the internet programs, because you brought it up, is there's no reflection on like you are the answer, and the answers are within you. You just have to create time and space to hear your inner voice again. And coaches can help.
Actually, there's actually a lot of coaches that do help.
I mean, coaches help, and I've hired coaches. But whenever I hire a coach, it's a very one-on-one, intimate setting. When we're in these big mastermind groups and things like that, you're not getting the attention that you need. And if you're going into credit card debt to create the awareness, you'd be better off going into credit card debt, like coming to Costa Rica and doing a retreat. Because you'll have something very quick and actionable to come out of that process. So anyway, you brought up the internet.
I brought up the internet. I think my algorithm has me a little backwards, so it's got me spewing. I don't know if you guys feel the same way, but I feel like every time I get on social media, I just see people who are like, I made $20,000 before I opened up before I drank my coffee and before my kids woke up. And I think it's incredible. I hope that they are doing that. And I think, again, it's kind of that false sense that that's just how it works, that day one that it was that way. You know, it's a process for all of us, wherever we are in our life. So, so what do we think? Do we think that?
Yeah, I think it's your birthday, so we're going to go do yoga.
Yes.
And, great, Shannon. It's kind of funny. We've been wanting to go to this restaurant the entire time we've been here, and we're finally doing that tonight to celebrate.
The kids have Moon Club, which has been an incredible gift here in the jungle. We've actually had more date nights here in the jungle than I think we've ever had in the United States.
Happy to create some of those structures and support systems for people in America.
Yes, there's some pretty cool stuff here that we're ready to bring back, because the parental support down here is pretty beautiful.
Yeah, and kids are cherished, and just to watch so many adults like bend down and talk to your kids and come to their eye level, and just the love of children is pretty special here. So.
Yeah. All right. Well, we hope if you took anything from this that you're on your own journey and you're allowing yourself to explore. And if you're in the messy middle, hopefully you see that we are too, you know, and to just know that like life is a beautiful journey, and make it what you want. You know, if you feel an inkling to explore, do it. There's a reason that you want to see something different or feel something different. And I think sometimes also when we put ourselves in different situations and in an extreme in another direction, we do learn about ourselves and appreciate things, either where we came from or where we're going, in a way that you can't really do just in your mind. So if you find yourself wanting to explore that, it's a beautiful gift.
Leap.
All right, everybody. I'm going to go enjoy the rest of my 36th birthday. Get a little quiet time before we pick the K's up at school. But thank you for being here. Thank you for just being here for the conversation. And I think as we move out of the jungle back into the more structured rhythm in the US, we're excited to continue to have these conversations, and let us know how Matt and I can support you. You know, we have done a lot of personal work here in the jungle, and we've also done a lot of work to actually learn how we can support people who are on this path. You know, we talked about coaches and how important they are. And, you know, Matt and I have gone through our own process to learn how best to support people. Because obviously you can have your own experience, but if you can fully understand how to support others through it, I think it's a gift. So if you find yourself looking for any additional guidance, Matt and I can support you through that. If you're looking for a starting point, the Motion of Gratitude, it's $28, $48 if you want a beautiful journal and bracelets. But it was the starting point for me 7 years ago to be on this path. So if you find yourself saying, this is all great and wonderful, but how do I even start? Go to the Motion of Gratitude, The experience is there, and it's 28 days of guiding you to tap into the quiet that we're talking about. Start to find appreciation for what you have in your current life, and to get quiet to lean into more of who you are, to see what's aligned and what's not. So I just wanted to share that if you're listening to this and ready to take a step. So thank you all for being here. We're excited to do more podcasts together. We've had some beautiful guests and just be sharing more of our personal journey along the way. So,
and wait, you just talked about the measure of gratitude. I wanted to share my book then, if you're going to do that.
Can I say something about your book?
Oh, sure. Thank you.
Because first off, I think it takes a lot of courage to even have the idea to write a book. I'm emotional today. I've been emotional a lot.
It's your birthday. You want me to pick up?
No, give me a sec. It takes a lot of courage to even have the idea. It takes even more courage to follow through. And to not only follow through, but to be extremely vulnerable in the process. And to witness Matt write his book while we've been down here has been really special and really incredible. And to know that he's doing it because through his vulnerability, he knows the impact that it can have for other people. To witness that has been really special. So, I'll let Matt say something about his book, about the book. But I just wanted to share that that it has been beautiful to witness, and I'm so excited for it to come out and for people to see a depth of you and a vulnerability of you that I get to see, but not everybody else does all the time. So I'm really excited for you, the book.
Thank you. Yeah, and I'm excited to. So the name of the book is The Paradox of Having Your Shit Together. And it was the hardest thing that I've done because I've read so many spiritual books and I've done so much research on plant medicine, and it all was so complicated. And I still read so much today, and sometimes I'll be reading a book and it's like, I don't know what they're saying. I don't know the vocabulary. And it's so complicated that I get to the end of the book and I'm like, I don't know what to do with any of this information. So my goal was to write a book that was incredibly vulnerable. So I even share my ayahuasca notes, which is just putting my heart on paper for the world to see potentially. But I wanted to share the depth of the vulnerability and the complexity of medicine journeys, but also the beauty of what's on the other side and how do you integrate it and how do you use language that is not trying to overcomplicate the human experience. It is not as complicated as we're all making it out to be. And so I'm just excited for that to come out in the next couple weeks. We'll be doing a little bit of a launch up in Times Square, so it's gonna be really exciting.
Stay tuned.
So we just have a lot of exciting things to come, and we couldn't be doing more of our. The next step is gonna be so outside of our current comfort zone to go from the jungle in Costa Rica, and then putting ourselves in Manhattan, literally 30 days later. So we continue to get ourselves outside of our comfort zone on the most consistent basis. And there is a duality of it. It's a ton of fun. I love stretching all the time. Expansion and contraction is just part of my human design, but there is a challenge in it too. And it requires a tenacity and a level of uncomfortable truth for us to keep growing together, because we want to help people. We want to help people that are feeling that feeling of going through the motions and looking in the mirror every day and saying there has to be more to life. We want to be the catalyst for those humans. We want to be the trigger in a positive way, or what you've been saying, we want to be the anchor.
Yep.
So that when you leap, you know that you are supported, you will be caught. And we've been caught by so many people over the last 5 months. Like, one of the biggest challenges I had in my life was I had the inability to ask for help. And over the last 5 months, I've had to ask for help in the most vulnerable ways that I ever thought possible. And every time I asked for help, I was supported. And that proves to me that it works. And it proves to me that the universe has our back. And we are designed to leap. That's why we're here. It takes courage and it takes patience. We want to help people leap. It's so much fun to watch. And we're being so discouraged from doing that in our modern society. And we don't have to stop. We can keep going. We can live. We can have fun. We can live, love, and parent consciously and work a system into our lives that will be abundant and playful and fun. And it takes a lot of work. So there's my little book.
So yeah, once we have some information around dates and release and all that fun stuff, it's going to be a beautiful journey. And yeah, if you find yourself wanting to learn more about Matt's personal experience, hear a little bit about what a plant medicine experience can feel like, and quite frankly, just integrating so what we like to call waterfall experiences in life. So whether it's something that you've experienced personally, or like if you've done plant medicine, or if you've experienced something, a near-death experience or something in your life that's just rocked you to your core.
Or even like gone on a retreat
where
you don't do plant medicine, but you've like gone somewhere, you've gone hiking in Utah, make it up. You literally go on these beautiful hikes and you give yourself some quiet time, and then you have to integrate all that information. That would be a waterfall.
Yeah. So we talk about any of those experiences. It's just if you find yourself on one or feeling pulled to do one, Matt shares his journey and then some thoughts on the other side of it. And like he said, the integration process, I think there's a lot behind that word, but yeah, it's been a beautiful journey, and I'm excited for you to share that with everybody. It's going to be special. All right, everybody. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. If you have any questions, find us at The Motion of Gratitude on Instagram, and you can connect with us there. But we love you. Thank you for being here. And we're excited to keep all these conversations going. So we'll talk to you again soon.
See you later.